How you doing, YouTube? Matt, Massive Beer Reviews, back to yet another review. A little bit of side-by-side, hopeful, USA-born, Belgian-esque, hopeful goodness in the form of St. Arnold Brewing. It is their Bishop's Barrel Series. We have 13 here. We have 21 here. They are both what it says on the back here. It says over here on 13, we have a Belgian-style quad aged in bourbon barrels. And over here, we have a quad aged in bourbon barrels with cherries. Decided to do a side-by-side on these, not necessarily the same beers. I actually don't see an ABV, so I don't even know if they're the same in ABV, but I assume they're kind of close to each other. One's a quad, one's a quad. Both get the bourbon barrel treatment. One has more in cherries. The biggest difference between these that I can discern, though, is that this one is a 2018 bottle. This 2016. So, yeah. So you're looking at 2 years difference, but we're going to do them side by side anyway. As far as what it actually says on here. Anyway, a little water in that sucker. They're both say exactly the same thing on the front. St. Arnold Bishop's Barrel Series up top, there's a different number, 13 versus 21. And on the back here, on the 13, we have, with our Bishop's Barrel Series, we experiment with pairing our ales with a variety of different barrels. Bum, 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 bum. It says the same thing on both sides with that. So yeah, really the only difference is the dates, and you have the bourbon barrel aged quad with cherries over here. So done and done. Label-wise, it's all right, you know. St. Arnold in the front, hanging out. So let's see what this sucker has to offer. Yeah, these come courtesy of Rob. Thank you very much, brother. He was nice enough to send these off to me, and we're going to review the shit out of them. So let's see if we can get the classic Massive Beer Review dual pour going on. There we go. I didn't do too shabby on that. I actually forgot. Oh, I spilled beer all over the place. I forgot my little coaster I got to put over here for you guys to see. This one. So let's throw that over there. Done and done. Look at that. I'm like so professional, it's not even funny. They look like exactly the same beer. I mean, from color, there is a bit more of a head on this one, and that's the more aged version. But this one also has the addition of cherries to it, so that in and of itself could actually knock out a lot of that head. Kind of cause a loss of head retention. Look like they both have decent carbonation to them. This one might have a little bit more going on, even though the head's not nearly as big. But yeah, it's just a rich mahogany color, what you'd expect of a quad, although it doesn't have that kind of hazy murkiness, that little, as I like to call it, doo-doo water look that I think quads really need in order to be a big Belgian soul-based quad. And that's my big thing when it comes to a lot of these American breweries. They make quads, but they tend to come off a little bit kind of confectionery sweet, a little bit too brown sugary sweet as opposed to Belgian candied sugar. So hopefully this is different. Let's do the 13 without cherries first. That smells pretty fucking awesome. You're getting that rich Belgian candied sugar. It definitely comes off as a Belgian candied sugar. It doesn't come off as a brown sugar. It smells quite sweet, but I get a nice breadiness to it, a little bit of date figginess on there, a little bit of rich red fruit that's marrying from like the yeasty kind of bits and pieces where you get the kind of plums and richness combining with that kind of bourbon barrel where you get those kind of cherries kind of marrying each other. Yeah, she smells really nice. There's a sugar daddy vibe in there and a rich kind of caramel toffee thing coming along. That could be a combination of the barrel aging combined with the actual time, but she smells pretty good. She smells like a quad that's bourbon barrel aged. That sounds super like basic, like, oh, no shit, Sherlock. You'd be surprised how many people don't get the bourbon part right, bourbon barreling part right, and you'd be really surprised how many people don't get the quad part right. So this one smells on point. Let's smell the cherry edition one. Really markedly different nose. Wow. It's like almost like a little bit of just a little bit of soft acetone kind of rubbing alcohol. Wow. There's a sweetness in there. You know, sure, is that Belgian candied sugar? Maybe. But you get a bit of sweetness. I don't really get much as far as like bourbon or barrel. I get just that evaporative alcohol thing that comes off a little bit of like evaporative rubbing alcohol, and that's it. So no cherries, no bourbon, no quad. Really, really starkly different beers. I understand. I mean, as far as I can tell, they're different iterations of a similar theory, but I would assume there would be a little bit of similarity to it. Sure, again, age can change things, but not this much. So, yeah, this. If you gave me this, I would hope so. If you gave me this blind, I wouldn't be able to tell you what kind of beer it is. Yeah, there's like almost like an oxidative staleness to it too, which is really weird because it's only a couple months old. So, we're talking about 2 years in a bottle here. Oddly enough, this one's a twist off too. That's the funny part. Look at that little twisty top. This one is not. Weird. I'm gonna dive in at 13. Cheers. Yeah. That's fucking delicious. Rich. I mean, it's sugar daddy for days. Rich sugar daddy. Gets a little touch of that raisinetiness too, which is near and dear to my heart. Get that Belgian candied sugar. Comes off quite nice. Comes off bold in depth, with depth and with not singular kind of how. If I were going to describe how that kind of non-Belgian kind of brown sugary, it's a singular note. Just brown sugar done. Belgian candy sugar has this kind of depth of flavor to it, and you're getting that in here. Man, the way that kind of toffee sugar daddy caramel thing comes off is of dreams. This is like exactly what I like my barrel aged beers to get to. It's very reminiscent of a lot of the Thomas Hardy and J.W. Lee's and the old stocks when they get time on them, but you get that added component of the Belgian Quadner. So you're getting that breadiness to it, a soft, rich, bready component, along with a lot more rich, dark fruits than you would typically get from a lot of those barley wines and stuff like that. So there's a big plummy thing going on. There's a nice, it's almost like fruitcake. Not that I'm a big fruitcake fan, but it works in beer. Fruitcake component with sugar daddy toffee vibes. And that bourbon barrel lost all its edges, all its heat, and you just get a sweet cherry, a little bit of soft oakiness. So it's dry and sweet at the same time. This is a fucking killer beer. It's fantastic. That is my kind of beer. Let's see what this one tastes like. Cheers. I feel bad for it already. I didn't even taste it. Not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, based off of what the nose was giving me. I really want a glass of water right now. This is not water, unless you live in Flint, Michigan. I need something to kind of get me out of how awesome this beer is. Reset my palate a little bit. That was like a 4% like smoked porter. Not smoked porter, hopped porter. So it's just going to give me a little juxtaposition reset off of this one. Yeah. Dive back in again. Okay. The nose led me to believe this beer was going to be an abject disaster. It's not. You're getting a rich malt sweetness off of it. A little bit of candied sugar. Gets closer to that generic brown sugar thing that I talked about. This not having. But it has the Belgian yeastiness going on. It's got a little bit of soft breadiness to it. It's got a little bit of soft red fruits, but that red fruit is more cherry. Could be a bourbon thing too. You're getting a little bit of sweet bourbon in there. Not much barrel or drying oak. I'm really surprised that they're so different. Even though this one has age on it, I don't think in 2 years this beer is going to turn into this beer. Let's put it that way. You do get that fresh cherry vibe off this one. So that's nice. It's saying it's in there. You get it. It's just such a different beer. Such a different beer. Sure, time, the addition of cherries, but how amazingly fantastic this beer is. I don't know if this one will get there. I need to find out. I need to get a couple-year-old version of this beer. If this the first time they've made this, I'm going to have to track one down or get some, try it in a couple years, see if it morphs into something resembling this. But yeah. It just lacks all depth and the depth and complexity from this one. Well, this one has that age on its side. It's not. It hasn't gone that far. I think this beer was markedly closer to what it is 2 years ago than what this one would be closer to this one in 2 years. If that makes any sense. Man, this is a really good beer. God damn. I feel bad for this one because if someone just gave me somebody's fresh American-based quad next to this, I'd feel really bad. Because you're going to have a really hard time. Any beer, doesn't matter what it is, going to have a really hard time holding up to this one. So I really wanted to do this side by side. Like I said, it just made sense in my brain because there was just slight variance. Sure, the time was the biggest factor, but man, whew, if this is how this, I'm not saying the brewery is going downhill and this is what they're producing now, but good God, man, this is the truth. This is, if I had this without having this, I'd be like, it's an okay take on an American version of a Belgian style quad. This is just home run status. No, grand slam status. Yeah, so to recap, this does have Belgian vibes to it. It doesn't have that rich Belgian soul. The candied sugar does come off a little bit more kind of burnt brown sugar. And it lacks like a heft and a body and a creaminess to it that I kind of think all quads should have. This, on the other hand, has that depth, has that creaminess, has that rich breadiness, that Belgian candied soul to it, while at the same time has sugar daddies and raisinets all over it. I think the barrel aging on both of them is very soft. I don't mind that on Belgians. I think they don't need a ton of barreling. So I'm not getting a ton of oak. Soft oak on this one, not as much on this one. The bourbon shows in a very fun kind of cherry way, but not over the top. So I don't think they got a huge barrel treatment, but I think it adds something to both of the beers. But this 2016 version, 13, is amazing. This is a fantastic beer. This beer is okay. Let's revisit it in a couple years, see if time changes it into something closer to this. Let's talk about it. Are these some of the better Belgian-born or American-born Belgian-style quads that I've had in the States? No. Up there is one of the best. I mean, it is so good. It's not even funny. When I make that statement too. And I want you to understand this. There's no way time made this beer that good. It added stuff to it that I enjoy. It rounded out flavors. It rounded out the edges. But this is amazing stuff. So take that for what it's worth. Value and availability, no idea. Maybe Rob can chime in and let us know what costs what and how to get them. And if I can get all of these sent to me, I will want that now, please. And just leave you with, if you like what, will you like these? If you like Americans taking handy cuts at Belgian styles, if you want absolutely 100% fantastic, stellar beer, you want this. If you like Belgian quads, if you like barrel-aged beers, if you like amazing beers, that is fucking delicious. So there you go. A little side-by-side in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the ridiculously long review. Down there, if you want to talk about it, Massive Beers, if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff, Beer Massive, if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a beautiful aged quad like this one, and hopefully see you next time. Cheers.